Hi students, welcome to Alphos e-learning chemistry classes for second year. The running chapter is electrochemistry and now we are in session number 34, the last session for electrochemistry. And in previous sessions we discussed about the functioning of different primary cells, that is nothing but primary batteries, and secondary battery nothing but lead accumulator. How they are working, what are the electrode reactions during the charging and discharging of that lead accumulator, all we discussed. And here we are going to discuss about the numerical part related to that lead accumulator, and numerical part and some more concepts related to that lead accumulator. And then we will go for the fuel cells, what are the fuel cells and how they are working. And then we will go for the last part, that is nothing but the metal corrosion, how the metal corrosion happens and what are the preventive methods for this corrosion, all we will discuss in this last session. Clear? And first let me start with this numerical part related to lead accumulator. Numerical part to lead accumulator. Lead accumulator nothing but lead storage battery. Here if you observe the cell reaction, that is nothing but during discharge. During discharge means it is nothing but during its functioning. When we are using the cell, the functioning is known as cell reaction during the discharge. Discharge is happen when we are using the cell, is it not? And now what is cell reaction? If you remember, it is Pb plus PbO2 by taking 2H2SO4 will convert into 2PbSO4 plus 2H2O. This is the cell reaction during discharge, that is when the cell is working. Clear? And in this case if you observe this lead with 0 to Pb plus 2, it is oxidized. This is oxidation. And similarly here Pb plus 4 now reduced to Pb plus 2, that is it is reduction. In these two reactions, how many units of oxidation state change? Just it is 2 units of oxidation state change. That means only 2 electrons migrate from anode to cathode. Clear? This is the basic concept. And now depending on this we are having different numericals or different conceptual questions related to competitive examination. First let me discuss related to this H2SO4 equivalent weight. Generally for any acid, equivalent weight is measured as molecular weight by Z factor. And when H2SO4 alone is given, this H2SO4 alone is given, that Z is nothing but the basicity. Basicity is nothing but actually the number of replaceable hydrogens. Here as H2SO4 is having 2 replaceable hydrogens, it seems to be Z value 2. So thereby its equivalent weight will be 98 by 2 in general. This is general concept. But here it is involved in this particular cell reaction where we observe that the Z factor is nothing but this change in oxidation state or the basicity, like that. In this reaction the Z factor is decided depending on the number of electrons involved per molecule. Here 2 molecules of H2SO4 involved, and thereby 2 molecules involved, and here 2 electrons are involved in the reaction. That means when 2 molecules involved, 2 electrons are present, 1 molecule require 1 electron migration. Hence in this particular lead accumulator H2SO4 N factor is 1. I think you know the difference between Z factor and N factor. Just let me make you to recollect with one statement. Z is imaginary. What will happen imaginarily, that is Z. But N is reality. What happened, depending on that we are developing N value. It is imaginary, it is reality. And now in this case 2 moles of H2SO4 involve 2 electrons, and thereby 1 mole of H2SO4 require 1 mole of electron, hence n factor is 1. Thereby here the equivalent weight is 98 by 1, that is 98, a peculiar case where we can observe H2SO4 equivalent weight equal to molecular weight. This is one conceptual question. And next one is, here they will ask you to find out the current, that is the current or the electricity developed during this discharge by giving the information related to the concentration of H2SO4. Just let me give one numerical related to that. This is the reaction, already we know, that is Pb plus PbO2 plus 2H2SO4 is giving this one. Here we know n factor is, just now we discussed, n factor is 1, and now they are providing if during the usage of a lead storage battery the H2SO4 concentration is found to decrease from 1 molar to 0.6 molar, then how much of current is generated? Again I am repeating the question. H2SO4 concentration is given in lead accumulator. Here in the beginning the concentration of H2SO4 is found to be 1 molar. Are you following? This is 1 molar initial concentration, and at the end, that is after the usage, if we measure the concentration of H2SO4, it is found to be, this is final concentration of H2SO4. So in this concentration change, by providing this data, they are asking for how much current is used or how much current is generated. Just we know it is also based on the previous case where n value is 1. 1 molar or 1 mole H2SO4 on complete dissolution will generate 1 mole electrons, or involves 1 mole electrons. That means it involves 1 Faraday current. That is nothing but 96,500 coulombs of current is there when 1 mole H2SO4 is dissolved. Clear? And now it is given from 1 mole to 0.6 molar, the conversion happened. It is, and how much molarity is changed? How many moles change? It is 1 to 0.6. That means the converted moles is equal to 1 minus 0.6, that is 0.4 moles of H2SO4 is consumed during the reaction. Is it not? Just you observe, initial concentration 1 molar, final concentration 0.6 molar, and now in between these two how much H2SO4 is consumed? Just 0.4 moles. And now I think you can calculate, when 1 mole H2SO4 is consumed, for 1 mole H2SO4 it is of giving 1 Faraday, that is nothing but 96,500. Then 0.4 moles when consumed, how much current is generated? Just it is nothing but 96,500 by 1 into 0.4. Whatever you are getting, that is the answer. Just when they are providing this type of calculation, here this problem seem to be bigger, but the concept is simple. Whatever they are providing, depending on this data, you have to consider how many moles of H2SO4 is consumed. It can be measured from these molarity calculations. It is 1 molar to 0.6 molar in 1 liter means 1 mole to 0.6 moles it is converted. The difference is consumed during the reaction. So when 1 mole H2SO4 is consumed, it can generate 96,500 coulombs, and when 0.4 moles consumed, how much is generated? Like that you can solve the numericals related to this lead accumulator. And now the next part of the lesson is nothing but fuel cell. Actually fuel cell is primary cell. Primary cells are nothing but which are non-reversible. That means they are not possible to recharge. Non-rechargeable cells are known as primary cells, and this fuel cell is one of the best example for primary cell, because in these fuel cells, once the chemicals are used for the generation of the electricity, it is not possible to regenerate the chemicals. Clear? That's why here that fuel cells, these are primary cells, and it is of two kinds. One is hydrogen and oxygen fuel cell. Just you remember, here it is H2O2. H2O2 is not hydrogen peroxide. Just you remember, it is H2 hydrogen and O2 oxygen fuel cell. And next one is hydrocarbon fuel cell. Hydrocarbon fuel cells. These are the two important primary cells. Of them, now we are just studying about this hydrogen and oxygen fuel cell. How it is working, what are the components present in that. Clear? And now, actually, fuel cell. In fuel cell, the chemical energy, just you observe, chemical energy is completely converted into 100% electrical energy theoretically. That means the efficiency of fuel cell is assumed to be 100% theoretically. Practically it is not possible. If it is possible 100% conversion, it is against to thermodynamic second law. But here theoretically we can assume like that. Clear? And how to represent a fuel cell? Fuel cell representation will be like this. In this representation, first of all, we have to consider, or we have to write the fuel, whatever the fuel we are using, and then the electrode. Electrode here it is nothing but anode side, and then the electrolyte, whatever the electrolyte used, that we have to mention, and then it is again electrode, and then it is oxidant. In this represent, that means the fuel, when it is of converting, when it is of used for generation of current, it has to go for oxidation as an anode, and for that oxidation one component is used, that is nothing but oxidant. That we have to mention. Generally here the electrodes are made up of either platinum with graphite, with carbon in the form of graphite, or it can be of using PVC, or we can use Teflon, or we can use nickel boride. These are different materials that can be used as electrodes in a fuel cell. And oxidants, generally oxidant will be air, oxygen, or H2O2 or HNO3. These materials can be used as oxidants for fuel cells. Clear? These are theoretical part. And now how it is working, how it is constructed, what are the components present. Let us consider that what are the electrode reactions that involved in H2 and O2 fuel cell. Actually this H2O2 fuel cell, it appears a rough diagram like this. These are the two electrodes, one electrode and the other electrode. These two are connected, and here in between these two there is some sort of ion exchange resin. Ion exchange resin that separates, it is solid form, and any water formed during H2 and O2 reaction, it will be allowed to come out, water. And here it is nothing but voltmeter connected, and then here two chambers are maintained on both sides of this electrode set like this. Two chambers. This is graphite with platinum. Here also graphite with some platinum. These two are the electrodes. This is the chamber for anode reaction, and this is the chamber for cathode reaction. cathode reaction, and this is nothing but it is electrolyte. This electrolyte is nothing but having ion exchange resin. It is of having H plus or OH minus ions. This is the set, that is the electrodes are like this. This is anode OHE and this is cathode RHE. Clear? And now when these two are reacting, that is H2 and O2, if any water formed, it will be allowed to pass out. And now let us go for what is happening at electrodes. It is, if first let me give the functioning of this ion exchange resin. It allows only the H plus or OH minus ions to pass through it. It never allows H2 or O2 to pass it. That is, the gaseous H2 or O2 are unable to pass through this ionic exchange resin. Instead of that, it can allow only H plus or OH minus ions to pass through it. Clear? And now, if H plus form is present, then the reaction will be like this. At anode, H2 by releasing 4 electrons will convert into 4H plus. This is, and at cathode, this H plus by taking 4 electrons convert into H2, and this H2 by taking oxygen convert into, that is simply, let me write the equation in a different manner. It is H2 by giving electrons and H plus by taking electrons like this, and this H2 now by taking oxygen from atmosphere will convert into H2O. This is the reaction what happens. And now how it is taking place. This one, these 4 electrons migrate to H2, and this is whatever it may be, 2H2 plus O2 giving 2H2O. This is the reaction. And in case if OH minus ion form is there, in such a case at anode the reaction is 2H2 plus OH minus 4OH minus by releasing 4 electrons will convert into 4H2O. And then at cathode 2H2O plus 4 electrons plus O2 gives 4OH minus. And now the combination of this is, this one is cancelling 2H2O and this 4OH cancelling this 4OH, and 4 electrons cancel. Now 2H2 plus O2 giving 2H2. This is the working or the electrode reaction when the ion is in OH form, and when it is in H plus form, this is the reaction. Like that, in this case it is of having the electron migration from anode to cathode. That migration is nothing but generating the current. And now the efficiency of the cell, fuel cell, is measured as efficiency of fuel cell is given as theta is equal to delta G by delta H into 100. I think you know this delta G. Delta G is nothing but Gibbs free energy change, and delta H is nothing but enthalpy change during this reaction. And this delta G by delta H into 100 will provide the efficiency of fuel cell. Actually, theoretically it is 100, but actually in practical observation it is less than 100. Clear? Like this the fuel cell is working. Clear? And the last part of the lesson is metal corrosions. And what is happening during iron corrosion? Iron corrosion is nothing but rusting. And first let us define what is corrosion. Corrosion is nothing but, if you recall from metallurgy, any metal, in most of the metals are existing in combined form. They are unable to exist in pure form, that is in native form, because they are having high electropositivity. Electropositivity is nothing but tendency to release electrons, and because of this high electropositivity, that is the tendency to release electron, they never exist in metallic form. Instead of that, they are existing in combined form, either MX or MsO4 MX or MsO4 X times, like that, or it may be sometimes in the form of metal sulfides, like that. They are existing in combined form. These are known as ores or minerals. In this form only they are existing in earth crust. The native form means pure metal, M, in most of the cases doesn't exist. Clear? That means it is always exist in its oxidation state, that is when it is with plus N. The reason is nothing but tendency to release the electron. Clear? Here it is of finding some sort of stability. In this conversion, in this oxidation, the oxidation potential is positive. That means feasible reaction is to exist in positive oxidation state. Most of the metals exist like this. Clear? And now when we are extracting metal, what we are doing is nothing but from these metals we are making it to come back into pure form, native form. And what we are doing, from their plus oxidation state to 0, that is all the metallurgical operations tend to go for reduction. You remember, by reduction we are making or we are extracting metal from its compounds, nothing but from minerals or from ores. Clear? And now these metals, by compelled, simply it is not a feasible reaction. The feasible reaction is conversion into oxides or some other minerals, and when we are applying some external force, we are making it to come reverse by metallurgical operations. Clear? And now these metals, when we are not using them for long time, most of the metals tend to go once again back to their mineral form. When the iron, say for example iron metal, when we are not using, one iron rod is kept aside for long time, 2-3 years, like that, then the metal starts to slowly get into its mineral form or into its compound form. Why? Because instead of the metallic form, native form, in its oxidation form, it is more stable. That's why it is getting into this. The tendency of conversion of the metal into its native combined form, conversion of metal from its native form to its combined form, that is mineral form, is known as corrosion. It is known as corrosion. And the best examples for corrosion is rusting of iron. Rusting of iron, the best example, because in our regular life we are observing this. And next one is tarnishing of silver. Tarnishing of silver. If you observe silver ornaments after a long time usage, that is after 6 months or 7 months, the shining white color, that is nothing but metallic shine, will come back, whitish color or bluish white will now slowly losing its glazing. Simply it is of converting into black. It is nothing but that metal surface is reacting with oxygen that present in the atmosphere. Thereby it is converting into metal oxide. Silver oxide is black in color. That's why slowly it is converting. That conversion of whitish metallic luster into black is known as tarnishing. Tarnishing of silver. And one more you can observe, that is nothing but the green coating. Green coating developed on copper or bronze metals. On these two metals, some sort of, if we are not using for a long time, these metals, when they are in contact with moisture, they are of developing some sort of green coating. All these are the best examples for corrosion. Clear? And now the topic is, what is corrosion, how it happens, what are the reactions that involved in corrosion, and what type of materials are promoting this corrosion, and how we can prevent the rusting of iron. That we are discussing here. Corrosion. It is happened because of the metal oxidation. Metal oxidation with oxygen present in atmosphere, in presence of, you remember, in presence of moisture. Only in presence of moisture this corrosion is possible. That is in presence of water. Moisture that present in atmosphere is sufficient to make any metal to go for corrosion. Clear? And now the metal oxidation, and you know oxidation will happen at anode, and thereby this metal oxidation corrosion is known as anodic dissolution of the metal. Anodic dissolution of metal that undergoes for corrosion. Anodic dissolution, you remember, this is an electrochemical process. Electrochemical process. In this electrochemical process, the metal anode is slowly dissolving. Dissolving means it is in metallic form to not, that is in combined form or in mineral form, it is slowly converting. So when it is slowly converting, the pure metallic form is decreasing. That's why it is known as anodic dissolution of the metal. It is an electrochemical process. Clear? And now let us consider the mechanism of rusting of iron. Then we can observe what is happening. Generally, when iron object or article is exposed to atmosphere, at a part oxidation takes place, and the part or the portion starts to behave like anode. This is the starting part. When iron object is exposed to atmosphere, which is of having moisture, a particular portion, oxidation starts to begin, and that part now behaves like anode. Let us consider iron. Here iron at a part, this is ready to release the electrons, and it converts to Fe plus to aqueous. This is oxidation, if you observe. Is it not? And in this oxidation, when it is going for this oxidation, electrons are released. And say for example, this is the metal, and here the oxidation started, and the electrons are released, and these electrons migrate through the metal, and here at some other part those electrons are getting used. And that part now, this is where iron is converting to Fe+2, is behaving as anode. This is anodic part. And after releasing the electrons, they are migrating to the other part of the metal. And here that electrons are used, here the electrons are taken. This part is now behaving as cathode. And now let us consider what is happening at cathode. This is anode, if you observe. And at cathode portion, what is happening is this H plus will take these 2 electrons to get into H2. And now this H2, by reacting with oxygen that present in atmosphere, convert into H2O. Clear? Here 2 electrons released, here 2 electrons gained. Now the total reaction here, the total, that is anode and cathode reaction, if we observe, these cancelled and these are cancelled. Now what is happening? Iron 2H plus half O2 is giving Fe+2 plus H2. This is happening during the rusting of the iron. Clear? And when this is happening, just you observe, the oxygen can react only in presence of moisture. Oxygen is reacting with hydrogen. And with all this reaction, you can observe that this is acid. So with this one, we can say that acids promote corrosion. You remember, this is very important point. Acid promotes corrosion of iron. Not only acid, in case if it is of saline solution, it is also promoting the corrosion, but here it is because of it enhance the conductivity. Because of more conductivity in presence of this saline solution. Saline is nothing but 0.9% NaCl solution, and that 0.9% NaCl saline solution presence make or enhance or increase the conductivity of the metal, and because of that it is increasing the rusting. Clear? And now after forming this ferrous ion Fe+2, that will further undergo oxidation to ferric ion at anode, and thereafter it is getting hydrated to form the rust. It is like this, Fe+2. Now when it is undergoing further oxidation, giving Fe+3, and it is now getting reacted with Fe+3 on reaction with O2, giving Fe2O3, and this Fe2O3 is now hydrated, that gives Fe2O3xH2O. This is the rust form. Chemical form of rust is Fe2O3xH2O. Clear? And now when it is, these two are increasing this rusting, that is alkaline, acidic and acidic solutions and saline solutions. This rusting actually is of 2 types. One is hydrogen evolution type. Just they will ask the question related to this, where we can expect this hydrogen evolution type of rusting. Just in case of metals with negative SRP, these metals are supposed to go for hydrogen evolution type rusting. And second one is nothing but oxygen differential type of corrosion. Oxygen differential type of corrosion. Here it is nothing but when the metal rod is there, and the portion, say for example, if the metal rod is kept in any solution, here this part is less exposed to oxygen, say for example if it is NaCl solution, and it is more exposed to open air. And as per oxygen differential type of corrosion, the part of metal that is less exposed to oxygen will corrode first, here the corrosion starts first. Clear? That is oxygen differential type of corrosion. Just it is nothing but when a metal rod, iron rod is kept in NaCl solution, the corrosion starts inside the solution first, inside the solution part first, not to the outside part. It is nothing but because of oxygen differential type of corrosion. Clear? And the last part is how we can prevent the corrosion or rusting of iron. Here we can use different methods. Of them, the three important methods are nothing but, first one is by galvanization. I think you know what is galvanization. Galvanization is nothing but coating the metal article or object with prevention of corrosion. Galvanization is nothing but coating the metal surface, with zinc metal is galvanization. Because of being zinc more active than iron, it will oxidize first instead of iron. And second one is cathodic protection. Cathodic protection type. Here the metal surface, exposed metal surface, is made in contact with more reactive or more active metals like zinc, magnesium, aluminum, like that. So thereby when the surface is in connected with a more active metal, when it is going for oxidation instead of iron, these metals will start to go for oxidation and the iron will be non-reactive in presence of these. Clear? And the third one is nothing but by using anti-rust solutions. Anti-rust solution. And what are anti-rust solutions? This is for competitive examination very important question. Here anti-rust solutions are alkaline phosphate solutions. You remember? Alkaline phosphate solution. And next one is alkaline chromate solutions. These two are anti-rust solution. So when we are using these solutions for the protection of rust of iron, these will protect the iron from rusting. That is about the total electrochemistry chapter. Dear students, and you remember all these, in all these I am giving this total details of the contents that present in our competitive examination syllabus. It is not only for NEET, it can also useful for the mains and advanced level also. Here, after thorough understanding with all these concepts, just for in case of it is for advanced level, you have to practice some more numericals. In case of NEET, what I discussed in our regular classes, that is nothing but in regular sessions, that is sufficient. That models are sufficient for NEET level because it is time related, or time factor is influencing for the solving of the question. So as the time is very limited for NEET level, you can solve such type of numericals, that is sufficient. But it is for mains and advanced level, you have to go for more numericals you have to solve. But all the numericals will be covered with the concepts what I explained in previous different sessions. Clear? And in next coming sessions we will start with the other chapter, that is nothing but solid state. Okay.